On June 12, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu delivered a speech meant to echo the hopes of a democratic Nigeria and the dreams of those who fought for it. But beyond the tributes and promises lies a nation still battling economic hardship, political mistrust, and growing frustration among its youths. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's speech had a lot of things. It had a bit of everything from honoring democracy heroes to promising youth-focused reforms. But for many young Nigerians, the vibe is still, how does this change my life right now? June 12 was supposed to remind us of a fight for democracy, not just the victory of a party, but the power of the people. President Tinubu stood before Nigerians with promises, numbers, and history. But the question we're asking today is simple. Does the speech match the reality on ground? Today, we're not just analyzing, we're unpacking and questioning, because democracy isn't just a date on the calendar, it's a demand for accountability, action, and truth. And this is where I welcome you to Politics Uncensored, where we tackle the tough topics, challenge the status quo, and uncover the hidden narratives that shape our world. On Politics Uncensored, we strip away the spin and get to the truth of Nigeria's political landscape. Our goal is to provide a platform for open and honest discussion where experts and everyday citizens can share their perspectives and insights. Of course, it's your favorite show, and we have an expert guest who will be joining us soon. I'm your host, Okikiola Taiwo Jalukmo, a proud member of a new generation of leaders, young, bold, and unapologetically committed to redefining the future of governance in this great nation. Today, we're digging into a topic that affects every one of us, Nigeria and its president. What do they really mean to us? What was the significance of this thing? And together, we're asking, did President Tinubu's speech give Nigerians hope or just more headlines? We would love to hear from you, because every of our episodes is all about you. So be a part of all the conversations that we have here and add your voice to the discussions. You can head on to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Hit that subscribe button, like and share the link. Invite your friends to join the show now. Our phone lines are also open to you on 070-2500-7749 and 070-1424-2420. Let's hear what you have to say. We'll go on a break right now. We'll return with our guests and take our top stories in the political space making headlines. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Uncensored, and today, as I said, we're unpacking the significance, the substance, and the symbolism of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's June 12 speech, a speech many have called both a tribute to our democratic heroes and a blueprint for his government's intent. But the big question still remains, is the speech just inspiring rhetoric or a credible roadmap to action? And joining me is someone who doesn't shy away from tough conversations, a youth leader, political thinker, and public policy voice. Welcome, Abdulmumin Edidi. I hope I pronounced your surname
Yeah.
I did.
Better than many others.
Wonderful. Welcome to Politics Uncensored.
Great to be here.
Yes. How do you feel being part of a conversation that's not about biases, or it's just going to be, as I said, open and honest conversations that majorly pertains to the Nigerian youth?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's what we need, because even if one was to get me to be biased, I would not be. So I say it as it is.
Wonderful. And this is why the show is here. But before we go straight into the topic for today, we usually try to look at what's making headlines in the political news. This morning, I anchor the morning show also, and it was talking about the Benue State massacre, and it was quite an emotional one for me, looking at the videos that made headlines over the weekend, and, you know, the speech or the tweet, if I would say, on the president's stand as regards this. And the newspaper had a lot to say about it, yet it doesn't still address what the issue is. And we had a guest this morning talking about the situation report of Benue and said these security agencies are there. They were deployed quite all right, but they are not doing the work while they're there. They look more like observers than people who have come to restore peace. So what do you think about this?
So unfortunately, Nigeria is a country at war with itself. Um, if you dig deep into what's happening in Benue, even in the core north, these things are beyond criminality. Yeah, it speaks of unemployment. It speaks of long-term community issues. It speaks of intertribal clashes. And so it's beyond just banditry, herdsmen, killings, and all of those things. There is something that bettered it. And so what drew my attention to that matter was even the new Pope. I watched a session, I just came across it on social media, where the Pope specifically mentioned Benue, in Nigeria. And I'm like, this is already having global attention, and so we had better get something to do about it. Then I also stumbled upon the directives of the president to the armed forces, on what they need to do specifically. But knowing this has been coming on for so long, definitely there's a lot of, tribal clashes, to it. And then the president also said the community leaders need to get to do something about it. And for the first time, the president is leading a dialogue, a conversation in creating constitutional roles for traditional rulers, which is what they themselves have always clamored for, because the constitution doesn't really give them any role. We just, like, literally honor them. It's not like they have any binding responsibility on them. And because it's community-based, it's best for traditional leaders, community leaders to look into it. I don't see a reason why one tribe should try to dominate others. We all have our spaces, we all have our aspirations, we all have our culture, and most of these have to do with land, border issues. So maybe the Nigeria Border Commission needs to do more in defining borders and digging deep into those difficult conversations about these border issues. If there's a community that needs to be settled, please settle them, because there's no settlement that you can compare to a life lost, not to talk of hundreds and thousands of lives lost.
Well, talking about the borders, I remember very well talking about how our borders are really porous, even within Nigeria and to foreigners who come into Nigeria. It's almost like you can enter Nigeria this morning, the next day you can leave without any documentation in that sense. And this has been one of the things that have increased insecurity amongst the Nigerian states. But this particular guest this morning mentioned how these people don't even stay in Benue. Like, they come, attack. He has declared it a war. He mentioned that it's no longer a farmer-herder clash. It has now become a war where people want to take over their ancestral land and then displace people in that sense. He even mentioned about 15 council locations being abandoned in that sense, where people have moved to the headquarters. But even the headquarters is now at risk, and even his life in that sense cannot be promised. He specifically spoke to the president, addressing that dialogue and reconciliation is not really going to be the thing for him at this point, but to declare a state of emergency in Benue. Looking at that, do you think that we should now start driving a conversation about a state of emergency being declared in Benue to handle this issue?
I take exception. I really think that as much as you want to drag the president into this, I don't think the president has much to do in this. He doesn't live in Benue. He lives in the North Central, which is Abuja, but he doesn't live in Benue. The community leaders really need to get to work. If you look at most of these things, a lot of community leaders sponsor these issues. If you say the people who are causing this havoc don't live in the community, trust me, people go to other places to hire machineries to come and do these dirty jobs. And that's the problem. As far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, historically, it is a community issue, and it should be dealt with as a community issue. Why I said Nigeria is a country at war with itself, our military do not even have time to look into external aggression anymore. They are occupied with internal crisis. And that's why I say we are at war with ourselves. Buying Tucano jets, drones, area surveillance and all of those things. It's not looking at Iran attacking Nigeria. It's not Egypt attacking Nigeria. It is Nigerians against Nigeria. So we really need to get to solve this, because it is communal. That's just it for me. The local councils that are abandoned is unfortunate, but I mean, we need to stop shying away from those difficult conversations. The longer it takes, the worse it will get. So
Exactly. The longer it takes, the worse it will get. And I already mentioned that. And this is what has made such big headlines in our political news today, with the involvement of the governor, the president, and everybody involved. And like our guest already mentioned, that at this point the community leaders have to get working to ensure that they protect themselves and their citizens. And he has also highlighted something about communal. I don't live in Benue. I don't know so much about Benue, but I think that this communal issue and clash is something that I've heard that has been common amongst each ethnic group in Benue State. And I hope that for some reasons Benue can find the peace and the balance that it currently needs right now. We'll go on a break and then we'll return straight with our hot topic for today. Please stay with us.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time. This season on Heartlines,
we're committed to making a difference in people's lives. So Heartlines, in partnership with Reda Consult, is offering 12 free slots of counseling every quarter for people in need of professional counseling. Additionally, we're taking on 2 pro bono cases for individuals navigating a challenging divorce. To participate, please send an email to counsel@vedaconsult.com with your story. Our team will carefully review all submissions and will contact all the shortlisted candidates. Heartlines is live Mondays to Fridays at 10 p.m., so engage with us.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you just tuned in, we're analyzing the President's June 12th Democracy Day speech. And President Tinubu, addressed blended tributes with policy, aiming to affirm democratic norms and chart progress. He shared detailed economic indicators and reform initiatives while championing pluralism and civil liberties. The ambitious agenda spanning infrastructure, youth financing, and security. This now hinges on sustained implementation and bipartisan legislative support, and it sparked a lot of debate over the weekend, or June 12th particularly, where there were certain statements that a lot of people used, as the base of the conversation in that sense. And I'm having this conversation because for some reasons, like a lot of Nigerians missed it. When social media sort of picks the one that's supposed to trend in that sense, and then that's the only thing that they paint out there. So that's why I was like, even when June 12th has come and gone, it's very important that we try to address this speech and also take what Nigerians really need to know about what he has said. I remember a very popular thing that was trending when he said we're going to introduce tractors and our agriculture sector is about to be sexy, and that was the only thing that I saw trending online, and a lot of biased view about what they wanted to paint. Looking through watching the speech and also reading it all over again. It's one thing to listen and to still read over again. I picked certain things that I felt like, yes, for this reason, Nigerians need to be aware. And I'm glad that you're here to, to also give your own take so that we know the kind of informations that Nigerians should hold on to and not the ones that is so particular about cruise in that sense. The youth is very particular about what is trending, what looks like cruise, what can be retweeted, but we need to address, issues. So the president played a very big and glowing tribute to MKO Abiola and the June 12th struggle. Do you think that this government, this administration, truly embodies the spirit of June 12 beyond the symbolic gestures of all the historic people that he has mentioned?
So I'll speak in 2 parts. First, I think the president is a very good symbol of June 12, considering the fact that he was an active player in that space at that time. And he has explored democratic options to get to where he is today. Think what you like, but I think he's someone who truly understands the political game in Nigeria. And one thing that I have studied about him, and I really give it to him, is the fact that unlike many of we other Nigerians, he doesn't think of what as it's supposed to be, right? He focuses on as it is. Right? So if you are playing a football game and you are supposed to, use full power to play a shot, don't say, oh, I think I need to play it very little so that it will roll in. Play it with full force. And that's the kind of, I'm just using that analogy, that's the kind of person he is. So Nigerians, I just need to call attention of, especially the young people, we need to start getting serious. if we get serious, our leaders will have serious conversations with us. And I appreciate the fact that on that day, the president mentioned in his speech that one of the best things about any politician, or one of the best ways a politician can learn, is if he pays attention to his fiercest critics. He will definitely draw up some points from there. And I want to use this opportunity to, express myself to Mr. President by saying that I am not so happy that he didn't have that conversation directly with the young people. He focused on the past heroes, very important. He focused on his present folks and friends, very important. He mentioned little to nothing about young people, with whom he needs to hold this conversation. Unfortunately, because of the kind of larger-than-life image that the president portrays, anytime he says he wants to have conversations with young people, some set of people quickly gather themselves, rally themselves around, go there with their fine shoes and clothes, and present themselves as the youth. They are not the youth that the president needs to speak with. The youth on the streets, those on social media that you think they are always catching crews, he needs to deliberately instruct those people. He wants to have a conversation with them. And that's where I think they missed it with this June 12 speech. I listened to it, I read it over again, and I tell you, the only things they mentioned that has to do with young people is, vocational trainings, neo-funds, right, and all of those things. That's not the point. You see, this generation that we have now, they were not involved in June 12, and so they don't really appreciate what June 12 represents, and that's why they need to have a deliberate conversation with us. More so, the body language of the president is what the governors will follow. Unlike before, every governor used to celebrate Democracy Day in their own states, and then they'll come forth to, especially because then it used to even be the day of their anniversary, 29th used to be the, so, but now they were all at the National Assembly, and so the body language of the president is what they'll follow. If the president had a deliberate conversation with the youth, the governors will do the same. I remember sometime early this year, the Speaker of the House of Representatives had a town hall meeting with young people, and it was very good. So I think the president needs to do that. If they keep allowing the same set of, fine clothes, fine shoes, youths who are looking for contracts and appointments to always come around the president, that gap will keep getting wide. So they need to find a means to have very direct and deliberate conversations with the president. He doesn't need to be afraid of us. He just needs to find a way to get our attention. Because it's important. Otherwise, by the time these youths go on rampage and everything will just get lost again, I'll be back to square one. But he needs to have that conversation with us so we understand the significance that he's trying to preach. And then we get the point and we can take the conversation from there. Because it's not just about them. Well,
you've said quite a number of things, and some of the things I've been able to pick from this is saying that I don't think that the president can necessarily have everybody, every youth on that stage, and delegation sometimes can get lost, or the essence of delegation can get lost. I remember when they were supposed to be a youth confab in that sense, and we were clamoring for what is going to be the parameters of this youth confab. Who are these youths that are going to be on this stage talking about youth issues? A lot of secrecy, were mixed with that youth confab. But that's why I said that delegation can sometimes have wrong results in that sense. So if we're going to be talking about the youth now, you said he needs to find a way, but right now I want us to start having conversation about giving him solutions in this sense. In what way must he now find a way to speak to the youth, to get them to, be a part of the government or be a part of its administration towards a futuristic Nigeria? A lot of things, a lot of terminologies during the millennial age, the baby boomers, the Gen X and all of these people, is quite different from the kind of language or terms that the Gen Zs, and now we have the Gen Alphas and the Gen Betas coming up that are going to be using. So in what way are we going to find that balance? 2027 is somewhat looking like we're going to, even though he's rightly said that it's not going to be a one-party system thing, it looks more like the the election win currently is tilting towards him winning again in 2027. So it means that we have an extra, let's assume that we have another extra 4 years with this man. So what exactly does he need to do?
Well, for Mr. President, as the Democrat that he is, and he has said he is, I am one person who also advocates for democratization of the youth space, or democratizing opportunities generally. And how do I mean? I mean, if you say the president cannot have conversations with everybody, at least the ones that he's having and people are taking as crews is through a particular means. So for me, I think what he needs to do is have a conversation, mention things that has to do with just the young people. You should set aside a specific conversation for that. You see all those visitations from Davido and Cubana and all of those people. It's part of it because it's sending signals that, oh, I'm accessible. Young people can access me. In the same vein, he needs to have conversations that have to do with young people alone.
That looks like PR to me, because I don't necessarily think that Davido or some of these people, or even social media, I remember that he also hosted some social media influencers. I don't think that these people can necessarily
Reach out
speak
to
the grassroots in that
sense.
No, I believe that they have an ideology about what the grassroots needs, but not necessarily...
No. You see, the one thing I know about the president from observations is that he's actually accessible. But don't forget that I mentioned that he has this larger-than-life image, of which the people that even want to come around him will not even give you maybe a little person, a younger person to even come close. So you think you can't come close, but you can't go close. Most of the people that surround him are young people. His personal assistants, his media people, they are young people. And these are guys that they call the Villa Boys. They run the show. If you want to see the president today, you go through them. So the access to the president is not the issue. It's just that the kind of person he is, he has so many people around. And that's why he needs to be deliberate enough to bypass all of those things and have a direct conversation with the young people. How do I mean? You can have a young people like yourself coming to interview the president, unlike the likes of Dr. Ruben Abati or the likes of Mr. Ebuka Obaigbena and all of those people. Let young people be the ones to ask these questions. You will be the ones to draw the attention, to draw the clout for your other young people to listen to him. And you ask him questions that young people would naturally ask him. And this will be not just on the mainstream media, on social media. And so these clips that young people are picking to be crews, it will be what they will also pick to be the facts.
Absolutely.
So it's not so difficult, but it needs to be deliberate. I know this very well, because if I also want to plug into that space of, growing, penetrating, we will find a way around it. But I mean, it's not something I'm interested in. But I just think that most of the people that, when they say, young people, are the same people that have eaten and are even full, but just want to keep locking around the corridors of power, which for me, I don't think is necessary. If you have been empowered today, the likes of Alhaji Aliko Dangote, some governments empower them, and that's where they are where they are today, giving credit to their own ingenuity and, their expertise, their, knowledge and passion. But some governments enabled them, and that's why they grew, right? And so, yes, some others need to be enabled, but they also need to give way for more to be enabled, not that every time you are the ones that want to be heard. You keep saying the same thing that doesn't bring it. Yeah. So let him have opportunity to listen directly to the other young people. He has said it. He's willing to be insulted. Call me whatever you want.
Whatever names, yes.
But he's willing to listen. So let him be able to get access to what those guys are saying. Don't go and be feeding him, because it's not helping us. It's putting us on a time bomb. That's just the truth.
So let's talk about the Ogoni 9, the pardons that happened with Saroriwa and his other counterparts in that sense. There's been a lot of conversation around why the pardon came at this time. And they mentioned that about 30 years ago, these were part of the issues that Saroriwa was fighting for, and then the oil exploitation, in the Ogoni land, were destroying farmlands and all of these things. And now the pardon has gotten a lot of people happy in Ogoni, happy that, yes, finally there's justice, there's this, there's that. But they're also saying that, don't you think that that is also another way of, yes, we have pardoned you people. It's like saying that they were not innocent in that sense, but they were not guilty, trying to plead the fifth in this sense and then restart the whole journey of...
I think that given the people that have previously received presidential pardon in this country, the likes of Ken Sarewa deserve an apology, not even a pardon.
Well, so do you think that this is a step towards justice or just reconciliation in that sense?
I think it's more of reconciliation, let old wounds heal, because, I mean, these things have dragged us back for too long. So just let everything heal, and then we can turn a new leaf as a nation, because we really need to progress.
A lot of headlines I've read. Just this morning, Showore said that APC is leading. Obviously, APC is like the only state. There's no opposition in this sense. And it's quite surprising coming from a presidential aspirant in that sense, who also has his own party. And then many people have mentioned that Tinubu's administration has been more of suppression than, an expression in that sense, where there's so many things that has happened. But I really like to know what your take is on this whole one-party scenario thing that has been going on.
So if you say suppression, compared to the last administration, I don't think I've heard of any journalist that has been hijacked from his house in this administration.
Just recently, I think we had the issue of Dele Farotimi, being...
Dele Farotimi's case is completely different. I mean, I don't even want to go into that story, but I'm talking of a journalist that probably wrote something against it. Dele Farotimi wasn't dealing with the president. It was between he and Chief Afe Babalola.
But he related almost everything to a systematic failure in that sense.
You bringing Dele Farotimi into this case is rubbing off the impact of these kind of things on journalists. I don't think he's a journalist. He's an activist, he's a lawyer, and every other thing he wants to be. So let's talk about the journalists that do this for a living, that sacrifice their time, go cover difficult stories. He tells difficult stories too, but he might have his own perspective to it. But I'm talking about journalists. I don't think there's any one journalist that has been taken. The likes of this Abba something from the north, I can't even recall his name, the other guy from Calabar, they were incarcerated for a while. Their families didn't even know where they were. These are more difficult issues, right? I don't think we've had anything of such in this administration. And so when you talk about suppression, I think the truth to me is the likes of, Comrade Shore, what they need to do is find a way to get across to the audience they need to get across to. They don't need to be blaming anybody. The point is they are not reaching the people they need to reach, or they are not being heard by the people that they want to hear them. And they know this. He has confirmed it himself. He has tried to use NANS. He has tried to use activism. He's just not clicking in. And it means everybody across all political space needs to start looking for means to reach out to the people. That's just it.
So let's talk about deflections. Deflections, like cross-carpeting of these political leaders. A lot of people have been mentioning how moving from one political space to the other is now giving that same one-party, system in this sense, where almost one morning you wake up and they tell you that 5 governors have deflected from either the PDP or some party, to the APC. Do you think, looking at the political leaders in this sense and the trend of these deflections, do you think that it's more of survival politics for them, or are they seeing that, okay, this is where we need to be at this point in time for us to drive maybe futuristic Nigeria? I'm playing the devil's advocate in this sense, but I want to hear what you have to say.
So I think I see it from 2 sides. One, Nigeria can never be a one-party state, no matter what you want to do. I think I'm certain about that. So everybody that has asked me, I've told them the same thing. The other thing is that, it provides opportunity for new alternative. It's good when all these old people, the same set of people are gravitating towards the same space. Then it opens a space for emergence of new faces, new ideologies, and I think that's what people need to focus their attention on. Not necessarily those that are moving to one party, because they are the same people that have cross-carpeted over the years. So the other parties that are trying to come up, they need to start becoming the new alternative that they need to be. It's good, unlike when those people are trying to say, oh, they're trying to split, the same set of people trying to split, it will like saturate the space. But when they are moving towards the same space, They are clearing the path for a new, ideology, the development of a new conversation. So I think that's the way we should see it.
Well, Abdulmumin has said quite a number of things, and I think that, as I said, this conversation was quite important for us to really analyze beyond just what we have seen on social media. And here is where the real talk happens. We'll go on a quick break and then return, diving deeper into this conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the show. So it's quite surprising, and then this is the beauty of media in that sense, where sometimes you can get your words mixed up, and my lovely people at home have been sort of correcting me in this sense and mentioned that it's defections, not deflections, and that's how bad English can play on your intelligence. But basically, thank you very much for that correction. Now back to the conversation. As I said, the president mentioned a lot of numbers over on the speech, and he spoke about the 3.4%, GDP growth. He spoke about stable reserves. He spoke about reforms, like the National Credit Guarantee Company. He spoke about quite a number of things, infrastructure, financing, and all of that sense. But do you think that these figures are necessarily translating into real improvement for ordinary Nigerians, or they're just numbers and numbers again that the average Nigerians don't understand?
I think it's translating into something, frankly speaking, in all honesty. I remember asking someone yesterday how much a pint of Gary was, and the person said, oh, the price had dropped from, I think, 2,500 or 2,400 to 2,000, and I was really surprised. Are you serious? So I think it is. If you look at petrol, fuel as well, it's dropped, there's drop, and this is the first time in Nigeria where I'm seeing things rise and drop, and it's interesting. So I think some of the things that the administration has put into place, is good, and the best thing about it is that it's automating the economy, right? It's not putting shock absorbers for the economy where if any investor wants to come in, we'll have to concern him or herself about if the administration will remove those shockers all of a sudden, and then their metrics will be wrong all of a sudden. So I think it's giving the economy a natural face, which anybody, even as a young person, if you want to do an investment, you can say, okay, based on this analysis, based on this risk assessment, this should be possible. And then worst case scenario, this is what will happen. Unlike when you have subsidy and you are not sure if the government will even pay subsidy, or if the petroleum people will go on strike or not. So yes, I think it is giving some figures. But the issue that I've seen is that there's a gap between government, the government policies, and the people. For me, I've said it times without number. National Orientation Agency, they need to do whatever they need to do to orientate the people, to educate the people. Not just because of what the government is doing, but so that they can get very good feedbacks. It doesn't have to be positive, but very good feedbacks from the people. Not when the people are not, they don't even know. The problem is not that people are feeling or not feeling. They don't even know which one is which, right? Yes, people want to see a drop, improvement in quality of life, but it's not going to be putting up and putting off a switch, right? It's going to be a gradual process. Because trust me, our nation has been so sick for a long time. So maybe, just maybe, we might be, in the ICU right now, being on oxygen, and then trying to see if the signals are coming on. That's the way I see it. And it's not going to be, boom, everything just going back to $1, $1, or or petrol going to 50 naira per liter. So it's going to be gradual. But in all honesty, I think that from the economical point of view, the metrics are good. You know, some of the things that the central bank is doing are also very interesting. But of course, we are a nation. You cannot be better than who you really are, right? In this, I mean our values, our norms, our attitude, you know, attitude of non-compliance to rules and regulations. You can't be a saint in a non-saint state. Let me just put it that way. So if we want to get the best out of everything, we all need to work on our values and attitude. Towards everything.
It's basically you saying that it's a Nigerian thing.
Yeah, it's a Nigerian
and
thing.
we're struggling with our values and morals in this sense, and our attitude towards growth, or
let me make it easier. So before now, let's assume that on a Friday, the boss at the workplace gives the security guy or the driver extra 20K for the weekend. Now, definitely, that driver would have used that 20K to up their standard of living, just a little. Now, with the hardship that we currently face, even the boss is struggling, the driver is also struggling, and then minus that 20K that the person receives. So these are things that you will not see in other climes. I wonder where you go and you just find somebody, you know, dashing you some 50 pounds. 50 pounds is a lot, so...
But it's a Nigerian thing. That one, I would say that one is very unique to us in that sense.
It's proven by research, by Chatham House. I remember in 2017, a report was released by Chatham House, Dr. Patel and Dr. Hoffman. They released that report studying corruption in Nigeria from the norms perspective. And they compared it with America and UK, where if you go to, you know, America, and you finish having a coffee, you tip the waiter $10, or, you know, whatever it is. But if you take that same culture and you go to the UK and you are tipping the waiter, the person will be like, hello, what's that supposed to be? You know, so the same culture in Nigeria where corruption is corruption. It's not about female, it's not about male. Because it was a conversation about the former Minister of Petroleum, Alice Madueke, then Desiani Alice Madueke, you know, about the level of corruption that was alleged that she perpetrated, and comparing it to the fact that if it was a man, would there be as much outcry as it
I
being
don't
a
think
woman?
that corruption is a gender
Exactly.
thing.
So it's just speaking about our norms as a nation,
absolutely.
you know, and how it's affecting us without us knowing, you know.
So let's take it back to security matters, because that's like the bane of Nigerians' existence in this point, where it might seem that you're in a state that is safe in that sense, but now it's no longer as safe as you know it to be. I remember very well that I commute publicly from the mainland to the island here where I work, but for some months now, I've always had to double check, double watch, pick a time that maybe it's not too early or too late. I'm just always on the edge trying to commute from one point to the other, because there's been kidnapping, you know, there's been one chance and all of these things that you can think of. And it's not just even private cars. It has now gone into public buses where no matter how much you look too well, in a world where you struggle to you manage to get the bus to even get you to the next destination, you now want to find yourself
Safe.
lucky or safe in that sense to pick this thing. So over time, people still clamor on the government to do something about security matters. And of course, it's largely their job to do so, right, beyond civic duties. Do you think that the government has been doing great in this sense? And I personally can say that public trust has been lost when it comes to the kind of things that security agencies do. The guest that we had this morning mentioned that security agents were deployed to Benue State, but they have been more like observers rather than people that should be working towards maintaining peace. So what do you think about that?
So when we mention security people or security agents, we speak as if they are angels with superpowers. There are people from amongst us. They have families too. Before they put their lives on the line, they have to be sure if there's something in it for their families. And we know the way our system works. So the issue of security is everybody's responsibility. We need to build an interdependency culture for everything we do as a nation, where I am aware that what I do affects you, affects me, and affects every other person. We need to have that understanding. Just like in other climes, when there's an issue, even if it's your neighbor, you might not talk, but if I hear something from my neighbor's quarters, I just dial 911. Please come look what is going on here. I observe this, I observe this. That is the only way we can truly address security issues. But then if we want to talk about the one of emergency contact, how connected is our country? Does everybody have access to light? Does everybody have access to even mobile phones? Does everybody have access to network? You know, so there's a lot of complications that is going on. But the bane of it all is that every individual needs to be aware, and we need to take responsibility to support the security agents.
So I remember very well that during my NYC phase, during the orientation camp, so part of the things that we read publicly was that when the time comes, we should be ready to pay the ultimate sacrifice, more like a paramilitary distinct. But I don't think that in this case, security agencies being deployed there should be an observer. I feel like there's already a lot of people who have observed what is happening. Protests happened, they were tear gassed, you understand. They've mentioned that there should not be an uprising with people gathering unnecessarily so that they don't cause more problems in this sense. But I think that this is not about observing. It's about the fact that this has gone beyond observation. Everybody, if it's maybe maybe five were killed and they don't know what's happening in the community, people can't go and say that, or security agencies can go and say that they are observing the situation.
Do you know why it's a case of them observing? Because it is a case of a country at war with itself. When they go there, they see that it is a case of these villagers killing these villagers. Do you then exterminate these villagers because of these villagers? And in that kind of case, you are not in position to administer justice, right? More so, you take orders, right, from above, which is really the case. But I know that our Constitution empowers a security agent when he sees a threat against the state, he can take action.
There is a threat already.
No, he can take action. So. There is a threat, but it's a threat from within. It's not from outside. And so it's difficult. Trust me, it is difficult. Even the herdsmen crisis that we talk so much about, it's difficult for the military to just go in and start killing herdsmen because you're killing your citizens. And that's why even when you look at the bilateral agreements we signed with, countries that supply us with war materials, there are some clauses, there are some things that have to be in place for you to deploy some of those equipment, right? So it's a lot of complex issue. But trust me, the reason why you see them observing is not because they've seen criminals and they cannot kill those criminals or deal with those criminals. But the problem is because they've seen it that it's a communal issue. It's a thing of people against themselves, right? And I'm not saying that something cannot be done about that. It can be done, but it has to be done at the community level by the community leaders.
200 deaths and it's a village killing people. It's something I don't think that I'm going to take a stand with you in this sense. I saw children being burnt alive and fresh blood everywhere. And as I said, it was quite a very emotional one. But as we move on,
I'm not saying that the security agents...
I understand what you're saying, but it's all right to... disagree to agree at this point where we both are agreeing in this sense that something should be done, but in what method should this be done? And I'm taking the sense of where something should be done practically and not just observation. But, wrapping this up, the government, the president mentioned the NEL fund. It mentioned infrastructure for the digital economy and then diaspora bonds. Do you think these are realistic game changers or another round of political promises?
Absolutely. They are very important. Even I myself, I'm in the process of trying to access the credit corp, trying to look into the system. But I heard that it's in batches and then they are prioritizing civil servants first. NEL fund, I had a conversation with a student, recently, and the student was like, oh, who wants to that they said they are going to take your certificates until you pay back. So when you apply to a job, everybody knows that you went to school through loan. And I'm like, do you even know how people school in other parts of the world? Right? So that's why I said the National Orientation Agency needs to come into place. They really need to spend that money because I see it as an investment. When you spend so much in educating the citizens where they are self-aware, they can take informed decisions on things, you are saving us a whole lot of fortune in the future. But people see it as, oh, why do we need to empower the National Orientation Agency? I will continue to say this. Not even the National Orientation Agency. Everybody, if I have my way, coppers should be deployed to National Orientation Agency for that 1 year.
To get them working. Okay.
Honestly.
Well, basically, this is where we wrap up today's show. And today we've had, strong points, passionate reflections, and very, very critical truths. And I still believe that democracy isn't just about elections, like a lot of people have said. It's about accountability, equity, and impact. And I think that President Tinubu's speech may have touched hearts, but the real test lies in policy execution, transparency, and tangible change for young Nigerians. So as we honor the memory of June 12th, let us also demand a Nigeria where the ideals of justice, opportunity, and freedoms are lived realities. To Mr. President, my recommendation is very simple. Please match your words with visible actions. The youth are watching and the people are waiting. Of course, thank you to my guest, Abdulmumin, for joining us. And, to our listeners, please don't just be a spectator, be a participant in shaping Nigeria's future. Before I go, please ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Until next time, keep staying informed. Bye-bye.